these are beginner's chords, E minor, A7, the two easiest chords I know to start someone out strumming chords. And with these two chords, I mean, they're the same chords that Neil Young used in his song Down by the River. And it's a very common progression, E minor to A7. Jazz players call that a 2-5 progression because it's a 2 chord going to a 5 chord, if you know what that means, which I don't want to get into right now, but these are the easiest chords I know because now you really want to follow my fingerings and use finger 1 and 2 for the E minor. Maybe you've learned it a different way, like fingers 2 and 3, but here do 1 and 2, and then when you go to A7 you want to hold 2 and put the third finger on the second string. And another easy thing about these two chords is that all the fingerings are behind the second fret. There's no other fret. You're just playing behind the second fret. Now, when you do E minor, you want to make sure the second finger is right up to the fret wire, but not on top of it, right, hugging right up next to the left side of the fret. And then the first finger, you will not be able to get it all the way up to the fret because the second finger's in the way. You want to try to press a little bit harder with that finger and get it as close as you can, but you won't be able to get it right up to the fret because when you have two fingers behind the same fret on adjacent strings, you will not be able to get them both up to the fret. So you do the best you can, and because this one is not up to the fret, you'll have to press it usually a little bit harder. Now, you know, that's another thing about chords is that often beginner players think that you press with the same pressure on all strings, all chords. That is not true. Sometimes you have to press harder with some fingers than with others. Now, when you go to A7, the cool thing about this change is that you can keep the second finger common and just lift the first finger and then put the third finger on the second string. Now, because it's a string skip between these two fingers, you should be able to get both of them right up to the fret. Okay, and it will sound better if they're up to the fret. You might be tempted to scoot the second finger back to give yourself room to get the third finger in there, but see if you can kind of put them parallel and get them both right up to the fret. One thing about the left hand, the fingers kind of want to be side by side. So if your hand had its way, it would have the second finger be almost a finger width away from the fret because it's on the side of the third finger. So one thing you can do to work on that is to learn to pivot your hand. See, I've got my fingers purposely side by side, and then I just sort of pivot the hand, and you might need to get the back of your hand up a little bit. Make sure you're not just kind of grabbing with your thumb like this, because it's going to constrict the flexibility of your fingers, and you're probably going to have some dead sounding strings because you really want to be on top of the strings. And the best thing is to have your thumb just flat behind about the middle of the neck, about like that. Okay? So, so I purposely put my finger to the side of the third finger, my second finger to the side of the third finger, and then I'll pivot the hand, and then I'll learn to move it back if I want to, or move it up to the fret. So the goal is to just place them both up to the fret. But you have to find the right hand position for that. Usually the back of the hand is a little higher, and you're also pivoting, kind of turning the hand into the A7. And my third finger, like from my perspective, it almost looks like it's kind of crossing the second finger a little bit. And that's okay, because they're both right up to the fret. Now another problem you might have is the second finger, if it's a little too lazy and kind of wants to lay down a little bit, you'll end up muting the third string. One good little exercise you can do is to purposely mute the third string, and then see if you can gradually lift the finger to where the third string rings, and then go back and purposely mute it again. So you'll learn to purposely mute or purposely not mute. And when we're strumming the chord, we don't want to mute. We want that to ring, the open strings to ring freely. So this is training your fingers to have the right composure, the right curvature, to avoid unwanted muting of strings. So now also you want to learn a little bit of touch sensitivity, to where when you are muting that string, you can feel the skin of your finger touching that string, and you want to be really aware of that. So when it's not touching, you can feel that too, that it's not touching, and that way you'll know that you're clearing that string. So a lot of it is learning little subtle things with the left hand to touch or not touch. And it's kind of, you got to make sure that that is pretty squarely down on the string, because it could mute the fifth string too if you're not, if you're not careful enough. And so with the A7, you've got an open fifth string, a fourth string, second fret, open third string, second string, second fret, open first string. You're hitting 5 strings, and then with the E minor, you're hitting all 6. Okay. Now, up to now, we've been playing single notes, like the riffs, like and we've been choking up on the pick to where you just have like about 1/4 of an inch of pick showing under the thumb. With chords, you want to hold the pick more at the top of the pick, and you still want to hold it on the side of the forefinger. The forefinger being kind of like 3 sides of a square, the thumb encloses over it, but you're holding more at the top of the pick, and you want the pick to be a little bit loose, a little bit wiggly, like that, so that when you strum the strings, they blend together. And you can see, like, I don't know if you can see my pick kind of rippling across the strings. So I'm holding it kind of firmly at the top, but I'm allowing the pick to have a little wiggle room there. And forgot to turn off my tuner. And you can see it's now, this kind of reminds me of when I was a kid and I had a bicycle, and we would take clothespins and a playing card, like a Queen of Spades or Jack of Hearts, and we would clip them to where the playing card would run across the spokes, and it was supposed to give us a sound kind of like a motorcycle, and that's what I'm talking about with this pick. It kind of hits the strings like you know, when I had a bicycle on the playing card, hit the spokes of my rear wheel. You know, kind of see how loose that is? But I'm still kind of holding it firmly enough to where I'm not going to drop the pick. Okay? So it's kind of a brushy sound. If you hold it too close to the point, then it just doesn't work for chords. It'll like just doesn't work, okay? So you got to loosen up on it a little bit for chords. Sometimes when you're playing single notes and strumming chords, back and forth, you kind of compromise and maybe hold the pick a little more toward the middle and have maybe a ½ inch of pick showing under the thumb. But sometimes we have to compromise, you know, when we're doing different things. But these are the easiest chords I know to learn, and but the biggest challenge you'll probably have in the beginning is learning to change the chords on time. Now, reading the fingerings on the charts, that is kind of confusing, and you have to get more accustomed to figuring out the fingerings from looking at the fretboard charts. But, you know, the biggest thing to watch out for is not to strum too fast. Don't strum any faster than you can actually change the chords. In other words, you don't want to run a little bit and then stop, run and stop. You don't want to strum real fast and then, oh, wait a minute here, okay, there we go. 3, 4, and then wait a minute, oh, here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, that's not what you want to do. In real music, the beat just goes on whether you're changing chords or not. So don't be tempted, you know, once you have the chord fingered, it is very tempting to want to strum fast. But can you change that fast? I mean, if you can change chords that fast, then by all means you could go that fast if you want. But actually this one I think sounds better on the slow side anyway. So if you have trouble changing on time, try to really go through the fingerings without strumming back and forth smoothly. Think of a slow, smooth arch. So I'm on E minor, now I'm on A7, now I'm on E minor. And then you could try the opposite of the slow arch and do a ready, set, go. And then just go right to the chord. Ready, set, go. So you could do it either way, E minor to A7 or A7 to E minor. And then you can do a strum drill where maybe you just do 2 strums, get a little rhythm going, and see if you can change chords right on time. Like E minor, A7. And then you could try it the other way. A7, A7, E minor. A7, A7, E minor. Usually with drills like this, it's good to go in one direction at a time. So you go either E minor to A7 or A7 to E minor. Another thing you might be curious about, why are we calling this E minor? What is A7? Those are the names of the chords. In chords, like if I have an E major chord, it sounds like this. An E minor, I would take the first finger off, even though on this sheet I wanted you to play the E minor with first and second finger. But that would be a difference between an E major and an E minor. You can hear it sounds differently. And then E7 would be like that. And So chords are based on major scales or minor, could be minor scales, but if we took like a C major scale, you have 7 notes before you get to C again, an octave higher. And if we skip every other note, like odd numbers, like 1, 3, 5, that's called a triad, and that would be a major triad. And then if you take the third and flat it, that's a minor triad. So this would be a C major chord, this would be a C minor chord. And you think of 1, 3, 5, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. And if you add another odd number on top of 1, 3, 5, what is the next odd number? 7, right? 1, 3, 5, 7. And that would be a 7th chord. It's a little more complicated, there's more to it than that, but think of it that way. So you have 1, 3, 5, and then 7. So when you have an A7th, the 7th is actually that open string I was telling you not to muffle, make sure that it rings. That open 3rd string is the 7th of this chord. And the notes are not in order of 1, 3, 5, 7. That would be like that. It'd be a little more complicated to play it that way. But so we mix the 1, 3, 5, 7 notes, and sometimes we double. Like we might have 2 1s or 2 5s. But in a 5-string chord, that's basically, so getting, again, about the names of the chords, you're either going to have, like, say, if we're talking about an A chord, A major would just be the letter A, and that means A major. A minor would be an A with a little M beside it, usually a small case M, and that's A minor. And then A 7th would be a capital A with a 7 next to it. And these are called dominant 7ths. And they're the kind of 7th chords that you use when you play blues, A7. So right now we're just playing E minor to A7, and what I just talked about was a little bit of music theory, understanding what we're doing, because a lot of people are curious, why is that E minor? Why do we call it E? EM is E minor and so forth. But you'll get used to it. So basically 3 types of chords: major, minor, and 7th. Now there are more than that, but in our basic beginning rock guitar, it's going to be either E minor, E major, or E7 if you're talking about whatever particular letter. Like this is C major, this is C minor, it's a bar chord, and then this is C7. And they're all 3 C chords, but they have different qualities and different functions in the songs that we do. Okay, so I've been pretty long-winded. I'm going to go through this again slowly, starting with E minor. Ready, go. Play along with me. Two, three, 4, went through it once that time in the beginning of the video. I went through it twice. Okay, so have fun with these. Don't forget, subscribe to my YouTube channel here and like my John Hedger Guitar Studio Facebook page. Also like this video. Everything like that helps me. If you've gotten something out of this, show me that you like it and like the video. All right?